Hey everyone, hope you're well. Today we're going to talk a little bit about remixing, this kind of new phase here in the course that we're doing. And what remixing is a pretty interesting aspect of the course. So we're looking at chapter 23 now in your textbook. And as you can see here in the introduction, what remixing is just this. And the introduction tells you a little bit about it, but as well as it says here at the beginning, right? Just as musicians alter existing tracks to create new ones, writers sometimes remix or refashion their writing for new contexts. A mechanical engineer uses elements of her technical report about a new engine part to rewrite instructions for the machinists who assemble the part. A historian turns a scholarly article on slavery and disability into a podcast episode for the general public, and so on. And it goes on to say in college courses across the curriculum, you might be asked to do the same thing, for example, by writing a research report for a class assignment and then sharing your work through a multimedia presentation for your classmate or others. So that's kind of what we're going to do. A even better example actually might be, you know, movies. Think about movies, right? How like say Harry Potter books, right? A lot of you probably read a bunch of Harry Potter books, a lot of them. I've actually never read a single one, but a lot of you probably read Harry Potter books. Most of them have been remixed, reimagined into like movies, right? A lot of Stephen King books, right? I'm a big Stephen King fan. Books like, The Shining, Christine, Carrie, things like that have been remixed into movies. A lot of times people think the movies aren't as good as the books, but that's kind of what remixing is thinking about them, reimagining them into something else, like a different kind of media or genre, maybe a video, um, a musical, maybe something like that, a poster, whatever. And that's kind of what we're going to be doing here in this next part of the section of the class here. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you. So be thinking about the two essays you've done earlier, right? The exploratory essay, the proposal essay, and think for a minute about um, the topic, the issue you've done, and how you might imagine that into some other kind of genre, medium, maybe as I don't know, a movie, maybe. Well, maybe not a movie, but kind of along those lines. All right. So be thinking about that for a minute. And as you do, we're going to look at another essay here. And this is an essay about rare earth, soil, not dirt, soil. I'm not going to read the whole thing, and you're going to be doing that in this week's lesson, but just really, really quick, this is sort of an essay on earth and soil and the environment. It's about a really cool scientist here, professor, guy named Dr. Lau. You'll be reading all about this kind of stuff. Really cool story about everything you want to know about soil and the environment, global warming, all that kind of stuff, everything to do about soil. So be thinking about that. And other things you're going to be looking at and thinking about, as you learned last week, is when this person here, the guy who wrote this, a guy named Todd Jones, when he wrote this, he was thinking of a number of things. He was thinking about the purpose of this paper. Okay, why am I writing this? There's a reason I'm writing this. I'm interested in soil. I'm interested in, getting the word out, the importance of soil and the environment. This guy, Dr. Lau, right? There's lots of really cool information here that I want to share with my audience, that I want people to know about. I want to convince them that soil is an important part of the environment, right? There's a specific purpose that this author did in writing this. Additionally, the audience, right? We talked about that last week. Who is the audience, right? There's more than just, right? You want to think more about the audience as being, say, me or the guy who's going to be reading your paper. The audience might be, in this case, people who are interested in, agriculture or farming. Maybe it's people who aren't familiar with agriculture or farming, maybe like somebody from, say, the West Coast or somebody who's not from the area who might want to learn more about this, right? Um, if you're writing about, say, social media or something, your audience might be, parents of teenagers who are like totally addicted to social media, or maybe your audience might be, young people or school counselors or something like that, right? The audience is really, really important. So again, in this case, who do you think the audience is? So all of those things are really, really important when you want to start thinking about remixing or reimagining your writing. So as you read through this, right, you're going to see at the end of this story, you have to be asked to read a couple of different remixes that he did. And there's a couple of them that you're going to be asked to look at. One is a video profiling. I'm not going to show it to you here. You'll be able to look it out on your own. And then there's another type of video. So both remixes that this guy did um, were just short little videos. So again, you might think about doing videos for your remixing project. Okay. Some pretty good ideas here. Remember, you watched a video last week, but have you watch it again this week about a student named Caitlin who did a video. She wrote an essay on diet and acne. You remember that? You remember you watched it a little while ago? And then she thought about, okay, so how am I going to reimagine? How am I going to rethink, remix this particular essay that I wrote? She first thought about maybe doing a brochure on that paper. She thought, maybe I could reimagine or remix this as a brochure. And then she thought, no, no, that's not going to work. And she thought about maybe doing a comic strip. She thought, no, that's not going to work. And finally, she decided to do an infographic. And then you saw the different ways that she came up with an infographic. So she kind of reimagined her essay as an infographic, right? Kind of one of those posters that you see hanging up all over classrooms or doctors' offices or whatever. So you're going to be doing the same kind of thing for your paper. And it could be either one. It could be your exploration paper you did earlier, or it could be the proposal you guys just did a couple of weeks ago. And again, it's totally up to you, right? It depends on, right? One might have a different audience, one might have a different purpose. It's kind of up to you, whatever you think works better. And as you'll see in the project that you're going to be looking at, right? There's really two parts to this, right? There's going to be the remixing itself, right? There's the, right, like this video that you can see here, right? This is going to be one part of it, showing or coming up with creating this video or infographic or podcast or whatever you want to do. And the other part is going to be sharing it with the class, or in this case, since we're an online class, I haven't quite figured out how we're going to do that yet. Obviously, you're going to be submitting it, and then maybe I'll set up I don't know, a group or something to where we can all see our presentations. But that'll be the second part. So you're going to be submitting the remix, and then somehow we're going to present it to everybody. But you'll see the project here on Blackboard. But that's how the remix project's going to work. So you're going to remix one of your essays, and then we're going to present it so that people can see it. Okay. So that's the remixing plans. That's how you're going to do it. So this chapter tells you all about remixing. So we'll be talking about it this week, working on a little bit of it next week. So if you have any questions about this, please let me know. Hopefully it should be a pretty cool project. Hopefully you'll enjoy it a little bit. As I said, if you have any questions, let me know. We'll talk about it later. All right. Take care, everyone, and we'll catch you guys later.